everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about my Kindle Unlimited recommendations. Now today's video is going to be a mix of Kindle books that I have read and would really recommend to you guys, as well as some books that are just on my radar within Kindle Unlimited. I don't know why, but it took me like 2 years of on and off using Kindle Unlimited to realize that they do cycle through their titles. I believe some of these books might be leaving Kindle Unlimited soon. I wanted to make sure that I got this video up within time, that way if they are, that you guys have plenty of time to read them. This video is going to be sorted by genre, so if there's a specific genre that you want to see recommendations for, feel free to skip to that. This is my Kindle. I've been using this since I want to say 2020. Usually when I read with my Kindle, I just read books that are from my library, but Kindle actually recently had a sale where you could get 3 months of Kindle Unlimited for free, which is insane. I've been reading strictly on Kindle Unlimited for the past, I want to say, month, and I've saved so much money. Without further ado, let's talk about some of my book recommendations for Kindle Unlimited. We are going to start with some of my fiction book recommendations. This is the genre that I've been reading the most of recently. This genre is going to be quite wide when it comes to recommendations. We are going to start with a book that I've been talking quite a bit about recently. It is a book that I've read really recently, and it is the book 800 Grapes by Laura Dave. This book is honestly such a heartwarming book to read. It is about a family that owns a vineyard out in California, and our main character that we are following is the daughter of this family. In her own personal life, everything has kind of gone to shit, and so she decides to go home because it's harvest season and she wants to see her family. But when she gets home, she quickly realizes that time has moved on, and everyone in her family is very different. They're all going through their own things and they're all growing up. Nothing is the same as when she left. It is such a heartwarming and kind of heartbreaking book about what it is like to grow up and the different family dynamics that there are. I really enjoyed the book. The more I think about it, I would give it a 5-star, but it wasn't a 5-star in the moment. If you're gonna read any book in this video, I would really recommend that one. I genuinely can't praise that book enough. It is so good. The next book we're gonna talk about is a book that is on my radar. I did start this book, but then I stopped because I'm filming some other videos where I need to read specific books, and the book that I'm talking about is The Lonely Heart Book Club by Lucy Gilmore. I picked this book up because it has a beautiful cover. From my understanding, it is about our main character who is a librarian, and our other character in the story is this elderly man who always goes to the library, and he's kind of a really cranky person. All the other librarians are very scared of him. They never talk to him. They never mess with him. Our main character, she decides one day she's going to give the attitude back, and they kind of start a friendship. From my understanding, there is something that happens where he has a health scare and he's no longer able to come into the library, so she starts going to visit him. Their friendship blossoms, and I believe she goes there like once a week to read a book to him. I'm very excited to read it. I think the plot is very interesting, and the little bit of the book that I did read was written very well, so I'm excited to dive back into that one. I haven't really heard anyone ever talk about that book, so if you have read it, let me know in the comments what you think about the book. This and a few others on this list are like within my direct radar of books that I want to read next. So I have 3 book recommendations that are all kind of within a similar category. I want you, if you are going to read any of these books, directly look into the trigger warnings of the books. They are very sensitive. The topics talked in these books are very sensitive. I think these books are very important to read and that people can learn a lot through them. The first book that I'm going to talk about is probably the most sensitive out of the 3 books, and that is My Dark Vanessa. I actually just finished this book and I really enjoyed it. This book follows our main character Vanessa, who was groomed as a child by an adult who was very close to her. It follows a past timeline where you're reading how she was groomed and how everything kind of came to be, and then also a present timeline where it is 2017. The Me Too movement is going on and other victims of this man have come forward. I really enjoyed the writing of the book. I think this book is amazing. However, the contents of the book itself are so hard. I felt really dark reading the book. So if you are someone where any of those topics are very sensitive to you, I would definitely skip out on this book. And then the other 2 books are kind of within that same realm, but are very different. So another one that is on Kindle Unlimited is The Handmaid's Tale. I'm sure everyone knows what The Handmaid's Tale is about, but if you don't, it is is I believe a classic by Margaret Atwood, and it is about a dystopian world where women do not have rights to anything. They are kind of thought to be property, to have children, and that's really it. It is a very interesting book to read, and I think if you haven't read the book, that I would recommend reading it. I know it is a very hard read, especially with everything that is going on in the world, but I would recommend it. Give it a chance. Again, within the same realm of what I said of the last book, if it is a topic that makes you very uncomfortable and that you're sensitive to, I would skip out on it. And the last book of those kind of like 3 books that all kind of fit together is Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar. Now, this is a book that I've been wanting to read for years. There is a quote from this book that went viral on TikTok, and it is the plum tree quote. I believe this book is about our main character who is suffering mental illness and how that affected her life. I've never read it. This is on my radar of books to read within, again, the next couple of weeks, next couple of months probably. My next book recommendation is a book that I feel like is very popular and a lot of people have read and a lot of people really recommend. I've also never read this one, and I don't know if I'm going to read this one, but it is Beartown by Fredrik Backman. As of lately, I've seen so many people recommend this. I believe it is about a small town whose high school or like Little League's hockey team is very important to the town's economy. Okay, and my last recommendation within just this like general fiction genre is going to be a book that I'm not sure if this one is still on Kindle Unlimited, but if it is, definitely check this out. This is The Humans by Matt Haig. It is about a main character who we find out is an alien that got sent to Earth for a specific mission. As you're reading the book, you figure out what the mission is. This whole book is kind of about this alien learning what does it mean to be a human, how do humans function, what keeps us running. And it is one of those books that when you read it, it kind of resets your perspective on life and it makes you grateful to be alive. I do know that not a lot of people like this author's writing, but I really enjoyed this book, and I feel like if you liked The Midnight Library, which is another book from this author, that you would really like this book. But if you did not like The Midnight Library, I would maybe skip this book. I've never heard people talk about that book, and I really enjoyed it. I do think that I found it on the Leaving Kindle Unlimited tab. That one might not be on Kindle Unlimited anymore. The next genre that we are going to talk about is probably the only genre that I have the least amount of recommendations, just because I haven't been reading a lot of this genre lately, as well as I feel like all of the books in this genre are super smutty, and that is because we're going to be talking about romance books. Personally, I really enjoy closed door romances or romances that are more focused on the connection between the characters and not necessarily the physical attraction. 2 of the 3 book recommendations that I have, I've actually not read, but I've heard from other people that they are really great and they're on my radar to read. And then I have 1 book series, but I haven't read the entire book series. I've only read one of the books, but I would really recommend it. There are a ton of good romance books on Kindle Unlimited. I believe the entire Chestnut Springs series is still on Kindle Unlimited. Wild Love, which is Elsie Silver's new book, is on Kindle Unlimited. I think some of Ali Hazelwood's books are on Kindle Unlimited, but I didn't necessarily want to talk about those because I feel like everyone's already read them. Starting off with the book series that I have read is Sophie Lark, The Brutal Prince series. The book that I've read is Broken Vow. It is with the little cowboy boot. This is a dark romance interconnected series. Now, I've only read Brutal Vow. I've not read the rest of the series, so I can't really speak for the rest of the series. If you are wanting to step a foot into the dark romance genre, but you're not wanting to just directly go into something super intense, I would maybe start with this series. It is about a mafia family, and I believe it takes place, or the family is run out of Chicago. The book that I read, Broken Vow, is a mix of like mafia-ness and then also cowboy-ness. So yeah, I read that one. I haven't read the rest of them. I probably won't read the rest of them just because I'm not super into dark romance. If you want to test it out, that series is on Kindle Unlimited, and I know a lot of people really like that. I also know The Reaper. I don't know what that series is called, but I keep seeing it on my Kindle Unlimited recommendation little tab. That series is on Kindle Unlimited as well. I think that one's a little bit darker. I've heard pretty good things about that one. The 2 books that I'm going to be talking about that I have not read, one of them is from an author that I've never read, and then one of them is from an author that is like a new favorite favorite author, starting with the author that I've not read. The book is The Bodyguard by Catherine Senner. I don't know a whole lot about this book. I believe the male main character is a famous actor and he has a stalker or something coming after him, so he has to hire a bodyguard, but the bodyguard is a woman because he's going home. I think his mom is sick, so he has to fake date his bodyguard so that it doesn't stress his family out. The other book is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I loved Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, and I believe it is part of like an interconnected series. If it's not necessarily interconnected, the characters kind of are in each of the books as like background characters. So Yours Truly is about two doctors. Really, all I know about this book is that I wouldn't say it's enemies to lovers, but it's kind of a general dislike to romance type of a book, and the male main character has anxiety. The main thing I've heard about this book is that the author's representation of what anxiety is like is very accurate, and a lot of people that read the book really enjoy that. Those two books are on my radar. That's all I have for romance recommendations. I feel like I don't know any niche romance books that are on Kindle Unlimited just because I really only read the really popular ones because I don't read a lot of romance. If you have any romance book recommendations that you think I would like, leave them in the comments and I would definitely love to check those out. The next genre we are going to talk about, I have a lot of recommendations for, and it is mystery and thriller. I'm just combining everything into one for this genre, so it's going to be YA, it's going to be thriller, everything of the sorts. Starting with a YA duology that I read really recently, and this is the None Shall Sleep duology. I would compare this duology to the Natural series, except instead of how the Naturals is a group of people, this is two kids, and they're not really kids, they're like teenager, college age kids. The girl in this duology is a survivor of a serial killer, and the boy is someone who wants to work in the FBI. They get called in and they kind of work on doing these interviews with teenage serial killers, but it quickly turns into them working on an active investigation that's going on. I think there's a third book coming out. The way that the second book ends gives it so that there could be a third book coming out. Right now, I think it's just a duology. The books are really good. If you are into that sort of like YA genre of that, I would recommend them. The next book is a book that is on my radar, and that is The Woman in the Window by AJ Finn. I know nothing about this book. I think it is about a woman who watches someone get murdered in a window across from her apartment. I'm not 100% sure. I could have just made that up. And then the next recommendation on this list is another YA recommendation that I've not personally read, but it is on my radar to read very soon, and it is Secrets Never Die by Vincent Rolfe. If I remember correctly, this is literally on my Kindle library ready for me to read. Every year this kid and his friends go to a place called The Dark Place, and they basically hold a funeral for all of their deepest and darkest secrets, but this year the secrets are coming back. Someone ends up blackmailing this group with their secrets. My next book recommendation is a thriller that I didn't love, but I could see why people would really enjoy this book, and it is Darling Girls by Sally Hepsworth. This is about our three main characters who are all orphans that grew up in the same foster home, and it follows a past and present timeline. In the past, you're following their growing up experience, their original home life, and then their foster home life, and how they all met. And then this present timeline is because the police came up to them because the police found something under the house, and there is an open investigation that is going on. It is very eerie and a dark book to read. I gave it a low rating because I did not like the ending of it. However, I could see if you are someone who doesn't read a lot of thrillers, if this is a book that interests you, I could see why maybe you would rate it a lot higher than I did. Overall, I enjoyed the story. I don't know if it's because I've been kind of in and out of a reading slump, but I just didn't connect to the characters. But I've had a lot of videos that I've been watching where people rate this book really highly, so I think it was just a me thing, not that the book is bad. My next recommendation is another YA recommendation. This is kind of an OG Book Talk book, but it wasn't ever super popular, and that is the Truly Devious series. I read Truly Devious, I want to say back in like 2021. Personally, I didn't continue with the series, but if you are someone who really enjoys YA mysteries, I would read this series and give it a chance. Maybe you'll really like it. Truly Devious is about a girl who goes away to a boarding school, and the boarding school is kind of known for this big mystery murder that happened back in the day, and she is kind of trying to solve what happened kind, but truly devious, the murderer, comes back. My last recommendation for this genre is actually a book that I'm reading right now. Again, this is kind of like an OG book talk book, but it is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Every time I say that title, I need to be so careful because it came out within the same time of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, so I always get them mixed up. I remember one of my friends from high school recommending that I read this book, and I'm just finally getting around to it. Our main character wakes up and he has no memories of who he is, but he is invited to this mansion because these really rich parents, their daughter is coming home. She ends up getting murdered, and it's this sort of Groundhog's Day book where every day our main character wakes up again and he has to solve who murders Evelyn Hardcastle. I almost said Evelyn Hugo. But every day that he wakes up in a new body, and so he's finding new clues about who did it. I'm like only 50 pages into this book and I'm really enjoying it so far. I never realized that this one was a thriller. I don't even know what genre I thought this book was when I first saw the cover, but I'm super intrigued with it. Maybe it will be in my June wrap up. Hopefully it will be in my June wrap up. We are finally on our last genre we're going to talk about, and that is fantasy. I've read a lot of fantasy books on Kindle Unlimited, and I will say I think this is one of the genres that has a lot of really popular books and then a lot of self-published books that I think you can find gold in those books, but not all of them are going to be good. The recommendations that I have are all pretty popular books, but I've actually never read any of them. I'm not in a fantasy reading mood right now. I feel like I'll be back into my fantasy mood in the fall time, so I'm not in a rush to read these books. I want to read them in the right mood to really give them a fair chance. A very popular YA fantasy that I'm very surprised is on Kindle Unlimited is actually Belladonna. Like all of the books in this video, I don't know what this one's about. I think this one is about our main character, and Death is a character in this series. That's really all I know about the book. That and the fact that the first edition of the book had the purple sprayed edges. That's all I know about it. I'm very intrigued by this one. I feel like a lot of people really enjoy this series, so I want to check it out. And then another YA book is Heartless by Marissa Myers, which is a Queen of Hearts retelling. This one I feel like is kind of hit or miss. People either really like it or they don't like it. And then another one that I was really surprised to see on Kindle Unlimited was Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This one I think is fantasy. It's either fantasy or technically sci-fi, but it is about these two guys that went to college together. I think they somehow figured out how to make people be superheroes or super villains. It's kind of this enemies situation because one of them ends up being a hero and one ends up being a villain who wants to take out all of the heroes. This one I've heard a lot of people really like and a lot of people recommend. I was really surprised to see that this was on Kindle Unlimited. I've always thought that I would have to buy the book if I wanted to read it, so it was a good surprise to see that on Kindle Unlimited. And then my last recommendation is a very lengthy read that I've heard a lot of people really enjoy, and it is The Poppy War. Again, I've not read this. I don't really know much about the book. I've heard a lot of people say that if you like more intense, kind of higher fantasy books that take a little bit more brain power, that you would really enjoy this one. I believe this book is super thick, so if you're gonna read it on Kindle Unlimited because then you don't have to carry a huge book around. Those are all of my Kindle Unlimited book recommendations. I hope you found a book. I feel like most of my recommendations in this video were kind of common books. Maybe by the end of summer I'll make another one of these videos with some more niche recommendations. These are just a mix of books that I really liked and also books that are on my radar that I wanted to share with you guys. If you have any other books that are on Kindle Unlimited that you think I would really enjoy, let me know in the comments and I would love to check those out. If you're not already, don't forget to subscribe. I will see you in my next video. I love you. Have a good week and stop scrolling on TikTok. Pick up your book. Goodbye.